Welcome to the Famous Editors Podcast. This is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a podcast where we interview famous editors, whether they're working on movies or your favorite TV shows or music videos with today's biggest recording artists, commercials that you've seen on TV, or running YouTube channels that are focused on teaching editing and post-production to millions of subscribers. Each episode, we're going to bring on a different famous editor. I'm going to ask that person two things. I want to know specifically what steps they took to build an incredible career at the top of the post-production industry. And I want to know what it felt like along the way. I want to hear about the highs, everything that's amazing about working with today's most famous living directors, famous recording artists, doing commercials that everyone around the country have seen. And I want to know what the lows felt like. As people working in film who dream of creating work that resonates with people, we confront a lot of failure. Film is a hard industry to succeed in. In order to succeed, you have to have thick skin and you have to have a lot of determination to push through the obstacles and the low points. And so I'm very curious to hear about where these famous editors found the resolve and determination to keep going when things got tough, to reach the heights that they have. A little bit about me. So I am Nick Lang. I started a commercial production company called Nurture Digital about 13 years ago, which works with many large brands around the world. 3 years ago, I launched a new, highly efficient, cloud-based video production service called EverPost. We have about 60 full-time employees and are producing hundreds of videos and ads every month for clients around the world. This whole career started from a passion for editing. I made my first short film when I was 11 years old. It was called Saving Private Joe, and it was a recreation of Saving Private Ryan using G.I. Joes. And so the editing for that one was done entirely in camera, since that was all that was available to me at the time. When I was in college, I started a wedding video business. What I enjoyed about making these wedding videos was slogging through 4 or 5 hours of generally very bad footage. And it was bad because I had shot it. I'm a terrible cameraman, the farthest thing possible from a cinematographer. I found it fun to sift through that footage and find the little moments that could work and could make a halfway watchable wedding video when it was all said and done. When I came out of school with this illusion that I was going to, coast into a career as a movie director, I realized that it's really hard to get a career as a filmmaker and specifically as an editor. I was editing random projects for friends who were making music videos or who were doing, tiny film projects. And I would just volunteer to edit them just because it was fun. And because it was such a reprieve from the monotony of my boring corporate job. I was an administrative assistant at a giant record label, which sounds kind of cool because it's in the music industry. But what I was doing was not cool. I dreamed of becoming an editor, somehow becoming a filmmaker. And the path for me to doing that was by starting a commercial production company, which I did while I was there at Universal. I had no idea how that was going to work or what even a commercial production company did, but I had interned at one in college. And so knew that they existed. I knew that world was a thing. And it had been fascinating. I would see these very intense shoots. The commercials are usually produced in 1 or 2 days, most often 1 day. It's like a really concentrated version of a feature film where you'll have, call it 2 months of creative development and pre-production, where lots of really interesting, intelligent creatives get together and practice their craft to make this 1 day possible. So everyone from the copywriters and creative directors at the agency to the director doing a treatment, the casting director, wardrobe stylist, art director, production designer, location scout, and all these other people are working together to put together this really intense, high impact day of shooting where over the course of 12 or 13 hours, they're going to film an entire essentially an entire short film. It has to have a beginning, middle, and end. It's going to have a complete arc. It's all going to be filmed in one day. And so you're going to move really quickly. But commercials usually have a pretty good budget. Brands invest a lot in them, which means you can usually or oftentimes do some pretty cool things in commercials. You can have stunts, you can have comedians and really great outfits and great sets or great environments and things like that. And so it's a really fun area of the film production world. And commercial editing is just as important as the editor to a film is. That story is very much retold there in post. When I started my commercial production company, I was the editor. I was also directing there on set, not touching the camera because I didn't want it to look terrible, but I was having the most fun in the editing bay. So when I direct, I do it so that I can have the footage that I want in editing, which is odd in ways that a lot of people just want to be directors and they don't want to edit. They don't have the desire to work with that footage in post. For me, post-production is the thing that I'm looking forward to. I direct so that I can get to post with footage that is going to let me tell the story that I want. One of my biggest challenges running this company has always been finding the right editors. Finding great editors is very, very challenging. And with the wrong editor, all of the work done by every single one of those creative people, all that energy and effort and those resources and all that brilliance is lost. And it just speaks to how rare really, really excellent editors are. Editing is what has allowed me to build this company, to have the life that I've always dreamed of. Every single project that we produce, everything that we film, everything that we write, every new client that we get are all relying on an edit that's going to make that story amazing. It's going to assemble all these great elements into a compact and well-told narrative. All of that is in the editor's hands. And I want to share that along the course of these interviews. I'd like to explore things that I've learned along my journey as an editor and then as someone who built a company around that editing. I also want to learn about career paths that we might not all be aware of. So for example, I didn't even know that cutting movie trailers was something that people can do full time and be very well compensated for, find incredibly creatively fulfilling. It's sort of a dream career. And there are many dream careers for editors that are not commonly discussed that I personally didn't know about before interviewing some of the people that I've already interviewed for this podcast. So I'm really excited to show people what a career as an editor can be like, show the potential that's possible when you reach the top, whether you're editing movies or TV or music videos or commercials or YouTube or other social media content, because it's a mystery. No one can tell you how to become a famous editor. What I would like to do in this podcast is map that journey for broad set of individuals who have achieved success in editing. I want to know each step that they took, because while we can't follow those exact steps to arrive where they have, we can learn a lot from their successes and failures. I want to put a spotlight on what an incredible career editing can be, perhaps the most fulfilling career imaginable. It can be financially very rewarding. It can allow a lot of freedom. A lot of the editors that I'm interviewing on this podcast get to work wherever they want to. They can set up great studios at their homes wherever they want, or they can travel the world editing. A lot of them travel for the projects that they're working on. They get to be on set working with these very famous directors and being right there on set as the footage is gathered and starting to edit it right there before the shoot is even finished. It can be a really exciting life. So that's what the Famous Editors podcast is all about. If you have a favorite editor of a favorite movie or a favorite TV show or music video or commercial or YouTube channel, tell me who that editor is, and I will do my best to get that person here on the show. Now, our very first guest is going to be Ian Sansevera from the very popular YouTube channel, Learn How to Edit Stuff. Stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy.